Welcome back to the grim darkness of the 41st millennium. I'm Inquisitor Temperance Prize, keeper of the Inquisition's Black Library, and this is my report on the Valentyne Heresy, an actual play podcast set in the Genesis adaptation of Warhammer 40,000's Dark Heresy RPG. This report features Game Master Tom McGee and players Ryan LaPlante as Inquisitor Lucius Valentyne, Tyler Hewitt as Attikus Viz, Del Borovic as Morgan Rolls, and Josh Halbot as Gideon Vega. My report shows that the Inquisitorial band have awoken inside the Black Library. Gideon and Attikus slept through the night while Valentyne shared stories of his past with his interrogator, and Morgan wrestled with the possibility of faith in the Emperor. Now that the Black Library has healed their wounds, can they find a way to save the Emperor? Find out next in this episode of the Valentyne Heresy.
From the files of the Inquisition. Tell us, High Inquisitor Shevak, what did you see and experience inside the Black Library? Inquisitor. Answer the question, High Inquisitor. Your silence is noted. You've just awoken healed in the Black Library of Chaos, a Eldari construct deep within the webways. Having fought your way here off of the Hell Planet, defeating both the Filth Lord and kind of defeating the Eternal Blasphemy, you fought your way to a warp gate, only to be met by a number of Harlequins who were good enough to shoot a Chaos Space Marine for you, as well as make some cryptic compliments on your sartorial choices before leading you into the Black Library itself. Valentyne, having treated with the Infinity Circuit of the Black Library, and each of you having proven your own kind of relationship to chaos and your own brushes with chaos to the library's satisfaction, you were allowed in, where you were taken to a small cell for rest and recovery. Attikus choked down some Xenos food, feeling not great about it. Valentyne and Morgan had a rather serious and rather long-awaited conversation around her goals within the Inquisition, as well as Valentyne revealing his own history and how Eugene came to be in his employ, as well as how he lost his eyes and ears. After which, Morgan, you declared sort of a new central purpose for yourself to move past all of your old trauma, your old fight or flight instincts, and towards the goal of actually aiding the Inquisition, whether it be under Valentyne or elsewhere, accepting that the scars no longer matter so much as your role within the Inquisition. You were warned by the Infinity Circuit that the webways have odd effects on humans particularly. It accelerates their healing. The High Inquisitor Chevek himself actually de-aged while here, so its effects have been noted on the few humans who have managed to visit the Black Library before, and lo and behold, it has occurred for you. So, Gideon, you found that the sort of burns and other afflictions you encountered in the very long day you've had since you fell out of the sky have healed. Attikus, your most recent sort of temporary implant actually healed out of your body, which is kind of gnarly, but also, I don't think Attikus was a huge fan of having Xenos tech plugged in anything.
No, Trinmakai put that in there, right?
Yep.
So, no, thank you.
Yep, so your throat is healed back over. Valentyne, you still don't have eyes or ears because those are just, you didn't grow new stuff, it just healed up past wounds, but you nevertheless awake feeling refreshed. And Morgan, you awoke to find just kind of flaked skin in your bed from the scars that have fallen away.
That was wild.
It's messed up.
Yeah.
And that's where we left things. So Morgan, you have, we're going to think Valentyne, you showed her
the image so she knows, and said the Emperor protects.
That's where we are.
Morgan is just going to quietly take some moments by herself and not getting out of this bed just yet.
Yep, Valentyne is going to cross over to, I'm imagining there's like an alien breakfast. He'll take whatever he needs from that, because Valentyne eats like I did when I was working on non-union film sets, which is like, this is a requirement and it has to happen, but I'm aware I have 6 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's just as fast as possible to shovel in the nutrients he needs. And then he'll make way for Attikus and be like, I command you to eat breakfast.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. And he does in a very similar fashion. This is how he also like scarfed and quaffed his food and beverage the night before. And he just like kind of dropped on the spot to sleep as well. Just kind of, I think that like foxhole mentality, just like eat and sleep when you can, and you can do it instantly. So yeah, he's finished eating immediately.
Yeah, veteran campaigners. But while Attikus is taking his 3 minutes to down enough food for 4 people, Valentyne is going to circle over to Gideon. Are you sitting on your bed? Where are you in this room?
Yeah, I think he'd be sitting kind of near Attikus and just picking at, a plate of strange food.
Yeah, I think this is very much the Eldari continental breakfast of just like, this is what you people eat, right? So it's a variety of like incredibly strange things. Some attempts to arrange things in a way they think, it's a lot of like, we think Terrans eat this. Do you eat this?
Scrambled eggs with Skittles in it.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds amazing. Yeah. Skittlebrow?
Skittlebrow.
Yeah. So it's just some attempts at that. And then ultimately just like sort of like a bunch of attempts at food and then just a stack of just protein bricks. They kind of have a tofu-y sort of consistency. So I think it's a little bit of like, you can have what they think is food, but they're also just like, here is the meal Ryan just described.
Oh, I was going to say, well, I think Valentyne and Attikus both only ate protein bricks.
I think maybe Attikus was like, are those protein bricks? And look, checks for the Imperial Seal, like, oh, no, off-brand then. And like, yeah, scarfs a bunch.
Yeah. These probably don't have the right percentage of corpse.
Yeah.
I mean, Gideon's picking through like normal, like what the few things that look like normal food. He's trying to find something recognizable to him.
Yeah, Valentyne would sit down next to Gideon and say, you did excellent work on Triox. I don't know if you realize how rare it is for someone to jump into their first combat situations and protect the people around them instead of either fleeing in terror or hurling their entire magazine of weaponry worth of, I guess in your case, Psyker powers, immediately at the enemy completely ineffectually. You're quite brave.
And he is taken aback a little bit, I think, by that last one and just, thank you. I didn't have much choice, but I appreciate that.
That's an interesting thing to say because you had a large number of choices, and instead you made a very brave one. I believe you are selling yourself short, Gideon Vega.
I don't know on a world such as that what is brave. What is not just in the self-interest. I can only do what I can. There was nowhere else for me to go. I don't think I did anything special or different. I helped.
You are a helper, Gideon Vega. Perhaps that is one of your strengths, the ones you assume to not have. Have you been thinking on your future?
I have not had much time, no.
We may not have much time altogether, Mr. Vega. Should I pass, there are other members of the Inquisition who may be able to assist you, but at the same time I am rather low on allies. One might say I don't have a tremendously deep bench at the moment, but I do have the ability to make records and store those with my Inquisitorial seal and authority. So figuring out what you want when this is all over, Mr. Vega, is a pressing priority for you, for me to actually be able to in any way deliver it.
I would imagine, I think at this point, Gideon has not thought more than 40 seconds
you were hideously
ahead.
injured?
Yeah.
And you've had like 2 hours.
Yeah.
Valentyne is just the man he
So
is.
the idea that this is even kind of being suggested, and the fact that he has no frame of reference to even think, like he's still trying to process all the stuff about the Emperor, about where he is right now, about what a life after this even might look like, that I think there's so few and myriad options in front of him that I think he just would. Thank you. I will start to look into that.
Excellent. I had another thought for you, Gideon Vega. Valentyne, where do you have the mask?
I think he'd have it like right on his lap, like sitting near him.
Valentyne would tap the surface, the face of the mask looking up at you, and say, this is clearly not as corrupted as I would originally fear if the Black Library has permitted it on these grounds. Do you know much of the Eldari, Mr. Vega?
Just what we were... Would he know anything from school? Like, there's that...
I mean, hate the alien.
Yeah, is it just kind of like the normal, like...
Unless you feel like you'd have access
You know
to
what?
more.
But
I was going to say, Tom might be able to answer this for Greybridge.
Greybridge
is a little
sucks.
tricky.
So you would, and I think it would be because Greybridge is the kind of place that would include one of the greatest threats to humanity in fairy tales and stories.
Sure.
So I think you would have got the version where, like, essentially, because also in my just personal bias, having grown up with like Warhammer Fantasy and Warhammer 40K originally being far more tightly linked, I think they would basically be the elves in stories you would have heard. So it would have been like, oh, you know, there was a princess in a tower in Greybridge, and then a mysterious, handsome Eldari showed up. And it's like a complete mischaracterization of who these people are. But given that they're all tall, fair, beautiful, cut, ethereal, like just an army of like Galadriels and Lee Paces running around, I think it would only be natural that there would be a big, weird, like the society would have a hard-on for the Eldari, I think.
Sure.
So there are a lot of things you wouldn't have heard about. I don't think you would have heard about like the Tau or the Necrons, other than just like, hate the Xenos, fear the Xenos. But like Eldari are probably a like, oh, I mean, hate most of them, but like Beauty and the Beast, like, oh,
Sure.
but I mean, I guess if they showed up, it'd be fine.
Yeah.
Would be my pitch. So only in broadest like fairy tale versions, I don't think you have any legitimate information other than like they're great in stories. If you meet one, please tell someone.
Sure. Yeah.
But also given that one was the power behind the throne there for a couple generations, that may have been intentional on Turnberg's part to make sure he didn't get shot on sight. No, Eldari are cool and hot. Don't kill them if you see them.
Yeah, so then just what I've heard in school and in fairy tales.
You were taught about the Eldari in school?
Well, they mentioned. Is everyone not taught about them?
Absolutely not. I thought this question would be a test if you'd been part of secret society, and instead I'm even more concerned about the threat Greybridge represented to the Imperium at large. However, you have...
He looks like put off. Like these are stories. These are normal.
Valentine's just burning ahead because he let that go on his own. Where he's like, I'm not going to tell this guy his world absolutely should have been burned to death. And if it was up to Valentyne, he'd be like, how do we kill Triox just to make sure it doesn't spread further?
Just for my clarification, you don't think they're hot? They're universally hot, right?
No, they are repellent and disgusting.
Yeah.
You need to act with extreme violence and prejudice under every other circumstance. However, you have joined the Inquisition, and we do have a larger remit than most, which is why they are currently our allies. And he looks up at the empty walls and just says, thank you. And he circles back to the conversation. I know technically no bugs, but Valentyne is Valentyne. One of the things that stands out to me is our experience with Jeffrey Schwarzenberger, who... You remember his former identity. It was of something that was perhaps not of use to the Inquisition or the Emperor, and then he put on a mask and chose a new life. There is also, admittedly, I'm not a Xenos expert. That is a different Ordos than the one that I engendered myself to. However, the Eldari also engage in certain paths. They put on a mask and become the thing that is appropriate to the defense of their craft world, to master their Psyker abilities, to all of this. If you find yourself overwhelmed, Gideon Vega, if you find yourself being lost in this battle, this pace, because you were not meant for this, if you truly feel that way, perhaps when you wear this mask, you could become someone who is born to do this. You could choose a name. You could choose a persona. When you put on the mask, you are the Psyker that is teamed up with the Inquisition. You are avenging and saving the Emperor. You are a force to be reckoned with. And then when the mask comes off, you can be Gideon Vega.
I think as you're talking, he sort of is like slowly playing, like just like running his fingers across the structure of the mask. I appreciate that, Inquisitor. Everything has been so difficult lately. This is a different perspective and a different path than I thought I would be taking. And I know this is as difficult perhaps for you as it is for me.
No.
Well,
this is quite fine.
Well, then maybe it just feels that way sometimes. But yeah, I think, yes, I think I appreciate your lenience sometimes with with me.
Just because this isn't difficult for me, Mr. Vega, does not mean it is easy for others. I was born to this. I've been training for this for decades. I've sworn my life, my soul, and my purpose to what we are doing now. I've accepted my death. I died a long time ago and I took vows, and I've just been racing towards it, trying to do as much as is possible before that time comes to claim me. You haven't had to make those oaths. And now is the time where you are realizing you are bound to them nevertheless, and you are facing a growth, a mutancy, a heretical repellence that has attached itself to your soul that means should you venture outside the shadow of the Inquisition without the appropriate training and permissions, you will be hunted down by the Black Ships or by the Arbites or any number of forces and executed as a mutant and a witch. He's done. he's just saying those things because he's running through them, and he takes another protein bar for himself.
Yeah, I think Gideon would like, as though this was a conversation at any point, and he would go to say something after that, and then just like the weight of that kind of, I think, hits him, and he just nods and goes back to his skittle brow.
What were you going to say before that?
Nothing. No, I have that's a lot.
Agreed. And that is now your lot in life, Gideon Vega. Or perhaps I should be calling you something else. Then he taps the mask.
And he kind of slides it away from you a little bit, like just farther away out of your reach to stop touching it. Because I think he still feels like this is that you're giving him like a pass on some things. Like I think he realizes that you still need him for something, and he doesn't know what that is. So I think he's trying to be a little weary around you, but still participate in. So anytime you come with him with like any kind of idea, he's like, "Oh yeah, that sounds great." And then I think like in the back of his mind, he's like, "I have to get out of here." But yeah, he just I will think on that, Inquisitor. I appreciate that.
Excellent, Mr. Vega. I'm just going to leave that conversation. He's just waiting for Morgan and the others to be prepared to journey deeper into the library.
Morgan will finally come out of her bed and go join the food situation. And I think seeing both of Valentyne and Attikus just eating protein bars, Morgan's like looking at everything else there and is going to take one bite out of everything else. Like, what is the best food here? Considering that you can't tell what it is, of just, fine, I'll go down the line. And I will do the investigation on what else is here or what actually tastes good.
Sure. So I think a lot of it there. It's a weird pull. There's a Futurama episode where Bender becomes a chef, and it's him just attempting to guess at flavor, and he's really bad at it because he's a robot and he can't experience flavor. And some of the things you encounter are that, where it's like only salt.
Yep.
You know, it doesn't look like salt, but biting into it's like, oh, that's you just only that, or only sugar, or like only space cumin, and it's just way too much. But then you actually do hit on some things that are just incredible. Like the texture doesn't match the flavor at all, which is a little off-putting, but otherwise, yeah, incredibly rich, delicious food.
Yeah. And so I think Morgan will just leave the one bited all the other things on the table, but take more of the thing that actually tastes good. Yeah.
Yep.
And look over at Attikus and, "Good morning, Cornovius. Your throat looks much better."
Yeah. And he like nods with his head over to where the voice box is resting on the ground, like, "Popped off in the night. Strange place, this."
"Yes, very, very strange," she says, thinking about her back. That it's just like,
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if Attikus ever saw it. I don't think so.
You might have known it was injured in some of the
but no,
places
not that it's like
bandaged,
a heretical
but
scar kind of thing. Yeah.
yeah,
No,
because
Valentyne
it was
kept
at
that
the,
away from the team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was at the race, but it was only mentioned aloud, but not, you never saw
and
it.
you only flashed Voidstein with it to distract
Exactly.
that
That's right,
poor
yeah.
man while he was riding his horse.
Yes.
I just listened to that one. It's like it's the most him like yelling heretic. I was like, ah!
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yes. Then Morgan will just, Attikus, I just wanted to say what a very good job you did. defeating 2 Astartes and protecting all of us, and that I am grateful.
And it's just like, this is weird. This is confusing. We're all just doing what we're told, and the bare minimum performance is perfect execution of what you're told to do, kind of thing. So it's like, thank you. It just hits him like, what do you mean?
Well, if you had not been there, all of us, and not just Eli, would have been lost, and if all of this would have come to a close before the portal. So,
Well,
I'm just pointing it out.
yeah, well, I was there. You were there. You did what you were ordered to do as well. So, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. And
What are we doing right now? What is this?
I don't know how to talk to you, and I'm trying to do so.
Oh,
I'm being sincere.
okay. I mean, me too. I just don't. Why are you thanking me? This is what we do.
I know this is what we do, and I wish to continue doing what we do, and...
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
All right, good talk. Here, try one of these. He gives you try one of these. And he gives you a protein bar. It's the only thing you haven't had.
Yeah. She's just going to take it, and it's like unwrap the top, and her whole face like teeth out, like, oh, this is going to suck, because she's not a military person who's like eating a bunch of this stuff, but she's like, like the top bite of it.
Yeah, having just had like flavor sensations that were heretofore unknown to human taste buds, to then go immediately into something that tastes like the color beige is not a great. It's a big step back.
Yeah.
Was that in a side conversation, or did that happen in front of everybody?
We're sitting.
Attikus is not discreet.
Yeah.
So.
Valentyne is making notes on his data slate for his own records, but he's not engaged in this.
Gideon is trying to figure out like who in the group he can talk to, and now he realizes it's no one. He's like, no one can have a conversation.
Gideon, it looks like you're thinking.
And, these are very difficult eggs. And he's like picking things out of it and trying to move past that.
Gideon, it feels like you feel like the odd man out. I'm tremendously perceptive. Perception is his highest skill, which is why he's picking up on all these things. He may not be rolling for it, but he's noticing.
I think, for the most part, like, he's trying to stay nondescript and not make this seem more weird. And he's trying to figure a lot of this stuff out. So I think, like,
why don't we speak as individuals, as citizens? I feel like the rosette may be making this otherwise tricky. And he's going to take his rosette off and set it a few feet away.
Can I ask you about that?
Yes, of course.
And like, I think he feels like he's in a weird, a weird enough environment. He's like, is that something you are even capable of? I have never seen you. We have been all to hell and different planets and aliens and death and destruction, and you have never once spoken like a citizen. You have been an inquisitor. I feel like there is no part of you that is not an inquisitor. And what would I say to a citizen that you would not tell to the inquisitor?
I feel like the first question is directed at me, and the second is what I'm trying to figure out dealing with you. Yes, I am an inquisitor at all times. I still remain an inquisitor without the rosette, but at the same time I can set aside any part of myself that I should so choose. The Inquisition has absolute power, so I could legally and efficiently say, I am not an inquisitor for the next 3 minutes, and that would hold. But the question of what would you tell me if I am not an inquisitor is what I'm trying to answer now. There is a great fear in you, Gideon Vega, which I can understand in terms of combat and in terms of ending up on a demon world. Honestly, not the most calm thing for any of us, and ending up here. But the only thing inquisitorial agents have are their inquisitor and each other, both on the job and off. This may shock you, but we've spent a great deal more time traveling around in a ship together than we ever have on a battlefield. What would you tell me if I was just... Imagine I am someone else. I'm someone here that you can use as a shoulder to lean on, someone you can share your concerns with about an insane inquisitor who's shown up, who seems to have a razor-like focus, no human emotion, and is sociopathically incapable of regret.
And again, just from like a Graybridge perspective, would Gideon know like what an inquisitor does?
Like in the vaguest,
Sure.
To play the fairy tale card again,
Yeah.
I think it would be sort of a like, if you imagine yourself living in a small medieval village, and you know there are knights in the capital, and everyone talks about like, oh, well, in the capital there are these people known as knights, and they can do whatever they want. It's like, oh, okay, but not here. Like
You're a person in a medieval village who's heard of the Spanish Inquisition.
no, that's it.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
Graybridge's whole deal was, since it was like the dirty little secret of one of the Lords of Terra, it's just like it. It's where you send your bastard son who's got dirt on you. So it really is just like it was a bunch of it's the people who denied that World War II was happening, like during World War II. So you'd be aware of the Inquisition probably by name, largely because it sounds secretive and cool. But from the way that Ryan always talks about, and the way we kind of understand from 40K, a lot of it, like again, if someone shows up and flashes the rosette, in theory, an imperial citizen is supposed to go, "Oh, I understand. They have absolute authority. Get out of the way. Let them do their thing." Graybridge, the nobles might know that, but I think rank and file, if the royal guards show up, like if King Frederick sent people, that's sure, be worried about like the Spanish Inquisition, but the town watch could kill you for less,
Sure.
So I think it's a vague concept that you've grokked pretty quickly with all of this, but it's the same thing with the Space Marines. It's like, yeah, theoretically they exist, but like I've never seen one. So do they?
It's a because I feel like in this situation, it's I think Gideon has been told enough times that like these are my red lines and don't ever cross them, and I think he's getting close to them, at least from like a philosophical perspective. He's dealing with some weird stuff, and he's thinking some things that aren't in line with like I think what an inquisitor would want to hear. But at the same time, I think he in line with this conversation. I think I appreciate that you want to find out what I am thinking and how I am processing this, but I am new to this, but I am not naive, Inquisitor. I understand who you are and what your job is, and I know that there is no off days for an Inquisitor. There is no down moment. There is the mission and the Emperor, and you have told me so. So I feel like there are thoughts that I have that are my own and need to stay my own until I sort through them more effectively. I hope you understand.
As a citizen, yes. But here is an interesting fact. I am a menial who is somewhat related to the Inquisition. One thing people outside of the Inquisition do not understand is that the Inquisition itself is not a monolith. Not all Inquisitors share beliefs. There is a convenient fiction that they enforce any and all crimes. The punishments are absolute. But it would be impossible to function inside an Imperium as corrupt as our own if that was the Inquisition's goals. There are, in fact, 3 large schools of thought. They break down into 1,000 small schisms, but there are the mono-dominants, who you would think of as the traditional description of an inquisitor. They kick open a door, they yell, "I'm the Inquisition," they kill everyone, whether innocent or guilty, and at the end they say, "Great job," and then, I guess, leave the corpses, take notes, move on. There are radicals who believe that any weapon can be turned against the enemy. They fall quickly and they fall hard, but at the same time, they are excellent at locating demons. They are very good at locating cults. They know enough to have deeply incriminated their own minds, and they can do great works before they inevitably join the armies of the enemy. And then there are the middle group, known as Amalefians. Those where my master, the Inquisitor, exist, believe in maintaining the Imperium as it stands. The status quo is good. The Emperor is sorting this out. This is the Emperor's plan, ultimately, and he is the only one who should be changing it. Which means we do not have the same moral limits and inflexibility as the monodominants, but we do not embrace the dark wholeheartedly and fearlessly like the radicals. I think you may have an idea of what the Inquisition is. I think you may not know who I am.
Well, I look forward to learning that, Inquisitor. And I think he just goes back to picking at his breakfast.
Interesting. Then that's where we'll leave things, says Valentyne, making a note in his data slate and generally noting that, like, motherfucker's not going to share. Cannot rely on the guy. He's probably going to fuck us. Okay.
No. No.
Yep.
He's just hungry.
Excellent. So, having finished your variety feast, the sort of light drains back into the walls around you, and they sort of darken again from that very, very kind of pale, abandoned wraithbone into something a bit more solid. And the infinity circuit chimes back in with a, "Have you all seen to your sufficient needs?"
Valentyne looks at everybody and just says, yes.
We imagine that you likely have questions and investigations you would like to make within our walls. We should warn you that although we appreciate your reasons for being here, your mission, and your forthrightness, we cannot allow you full access to the Black Library. That is not available to anyone, let alone humans. But we have decided to aid you in your mission, and thus we will assist you if we can. Make your questions and your needs specific and clear, and we will see what we can do.
Do we need to speak those aloud? Can we submit a document? What is your preferred method of communication?
Either is sufficient for our purposes. We will direct you to the appropriate items, resources, knowledge, if we can. If you wish for your compatriots to not know, it is as simple as thinking it. Merely let us know that you would like us to enter your mind, and we shall. To this point, we have avoided dipping into any of your heads. This may not be possible in the long term, but we are attempting to respect privacy. We understand that is something very important to both the Inquisition and to the servants of the Imperium.
That is greatly appreciated. We will create a document of any specific questions that we can pass along. I have some that are already prepared. Would you prefer them on vellum, or is a digital copy acceptable?
If a computer could look around, it would. I would say either is fine. There are no terminals here. That technology is well below us. We will get one of our acolytes to read it aloud to us in a separate chamber.
Excellent. Valentyne has some quick notes. Generally, he wants to know anything about any of the conspirators that exist in the library. Mm-hmm. He wants to know if the name Wilhelm Roach shows up in the library. It's like he kind of has public questions and then just for Valentyne questions where he can interpret. All the shit on the conspiracy, totally open. He is also including on kind of his separate list everything about this fucking lady he's ever seen. The physical description of her, the fact that she's appearing as people to people around him, the fact that Wilhelm Roach may be involved, like just every question he could have to try to ID or learn about this entity that is dealing with him. He's very sure it's a demon, but he wants to know if they have any news on that in general. And then the last thing is just equipment and technical support before an exit.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Would anyone else be submitting anything?
Yes, if there's anything you want to add to this list.
Yeah, I think Morgan would, down where it's saying equipment and such, she did, as you mentioned, how when she stepped in and saw the Harlequins, it was like, these Eldari have nice outfits. They've got nice armor. And she is wearing a holy shirt. So I think writing down just some sort of equipment, armor, clothes. And I don't know if Eldari are sneaky, anything that would help with being quiet, sneaking, that sort of stuff, because she lost all of that equipment back on the ship that she had prior.
Okay.
Gideon isn't going to write anything down. I think he's still too skeptical of the Inquisitor and what he's poking around. But if they can communicate telepathically, I think all his questions are going to be about the warp and like the nature of. Like I assume he knew nothing about the warp as like a concept before being sucked through it. So I think everything is going to be about what the warp actually is, what it means to him, what Psyker powers and the perils of the warp actually do, and then what they have for information on how better to control and navigate this sort of. Because I feel like the Inquisitors kind of set it up in a way where it seems like getting these Psyker powers can lead to your inevitable decimation. And he's seen little snippets of it, so he's going to try and like hold that off as long as he can if they have any information on that.
Gotcha. Okay. That one's interesting. Attikus, anything you'd be requesting?
Attikus would ask nothing of these people. No gifts or anything like that from Xenos.
Don't want like a lock of Galadriel's hair or anything?
Nothing's free. You know what I mean? Especially from Xenos and stuff like that. So no, he hates this kind of, but
Yep.
he is like, I think his hierarchy of values is duty and then hatred above all else. Like that is just how he operates, is like, do as you're told. And then if you have like free playtime, crush the Emperor's enemies. So he's just, he's like, he was ordered to eat and sleep, and he feels he's sufficient to carry on. So he asks for nothing.
Great.
Not that he wouldn't be open to like brainstorming questions if like Valentine's like, what do you think we should ask for and stuff like that. He'd be fine to like throw some suggestions, but he has nothing that he personally wants from the Black Library.
Yeah, and Valentyne is pretty public about it. Like, he doesn't have any broader Black Library needs. Valentine's like, we got permission for this. Don't overstay the welcome.
Yep.
If we want to get technical on his tech asks, he would like to know if there is a ranged weapon of some kind that he can get for Morgan that can handle heavy armor. Because right now, she actually hasn't been able to really duke it out with anybody who's nasty in any way or armored in any way. And the others, he needs a tech who can help him work on Lizzo Lizardman.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Lizardman could be quite useful moving forwards.
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's punch through these in not quite this order, but let's start with equipment. So, Morgan, what I'll say for you in terms of your ask is, yes, they the Harlequins seem bemused by the request, but amused Harlequins are like incredibly deadly, but also useful. So you get that thing where one of them just comes in and like Tim guns you, just like looks you up and down once, and then leaves and comes back with like an appropriate suit. And yeah, putting this thing on, it's just like similar to the food. It works in ways it shouldn't. It's just like the way it feels and moves is exactly how you would always hoped. I mean, this is a dumb example, but back when I worked at Lululemon, there was a lot of things like runners were just like, oh, you moved the seam. No one has ever moved the seam on these running pants before. I don't chafe anymore. Holy shit. It was just that. It's that kind of thing where it's just like, oh yeah, if you weren't held by the constraints of horrific imperial design on clothing, like what could you do? So what this will do is restore mechanically the gear you've lost.
Great.
And kind of give those back to you. That said, even though Harlequin outfits probably have Eldari benefit to Harlequins, you're not a Harlequin, so it will give you kind of the benefit of what you had, but there's no extra tricks to it. It's just incredibly good pro athlete clothing for the casual athlete.
Yeah, no, and I think that feels great, just basically that. Even though normally it would feel like, weird Xeno stuff, Morgan is definitely bolstered by the conversation she had with Valentyne, and also like, I guess the Emperor protects, like this is the Emperor wants me to have this. And it feels so good because she's just been doing normal clothes all the time on Greybridge. And before she used to have her full suit that went underneath her clothes. So it's like, it feels like that, but even better. So
on that note, if there are clothes you want over top of this, again, like they don't have a wardrobe or anything, but they can probably provide
I think this is fine for her moving forward. It's like extra sneaky, no snags, no extra anything going on.
Can you describe what your new Harlequin outfit looks like?
Yeah.
My next question too.
How do we convert the model?
Oh my gosh.
We
yeah.
take the head off, and what's the body? We put it on.
I think this is a totally classic sneaking espionage lady, full black top to bottom. But when the light hits it at certain angles, you can see that Harlequin, what is it called?
The motley.
The
like triangle pattern?
The triangle pattern thing.
the diamonds.
Diamond, like the chessboard.
Yeah, the motley.
Yeah, that pattern, but it's like black on black with slightly different materials.
Gotcha.
So that in the darkness it goes away fully, but you can see it. It has those like cutouts of the pattern, and it's like a full all the way zip up, all the way zip down. But then when it's on, and like the sleeves can zip up and down, but when it's all closed, it looks like just one complete flat black
Hell yeah.
closed suit.
And imagine when it's unzipped, it gives you a bit of like the cuffs and collars that you previously had.
Yeah. So the inside has a brighter colors on the inside, so
sick.
it can open up. But then when it's fully zipped up, it's just like sneak cat suit.
Great.
Nice.
And
Clown woman to cat woman. Those are two
Yeah,
options.
those are the options.
Woman
Yes.
to cat woman.
look, if Harley and Catwoman had to share a closet,
That's
it's like we
it.
only can
Yeah.
afford
Inside,
one
outside.
outfit.
It's reversible.
Yeah, reversible,
Yeah.
exactly.
You can take
Poison
the whole
i-
thing off and put the outside out, and then it's really colorful
all
if you want to do
clown.
some showy.
Poison Ivy grows her own clothes, so you guys got to share.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, I like that. Okay, cool. And in terms of the armor buster, I think what I'll say is, what's your current pierce?
I have
Just-
one remaining +2 pierce bullet. Otherwise, it has no pierce. It's just a damage 8, no pierce gun.
Okay, I'll give you pierce 2 at the cost of one of your boost. So when you do your aim, you can gain. It's basically like they'll modify your gun to give you like a harder punch. But because it's a heavier bullet, it fucks with your aiming. So basically, when you declare for like I'm using an armor piercing bullet,
Yeah,
and I'm aiming, you just lose a
Right.
So
boost.
instead of 3 boost, it's 2 for your aims.
right.
Yeah. And similarly, if you're not aiming, then you either just lose a boost or take a setback.
Okay.
Just for like a heavier caliber bullet, it's basically like you change over the barrel a little bit, so it's just slightly less accurate. Cause it's got
So
more
the gun actually has accurate 1, which always gives a boost, so I could just drop that forever.
Sure, that's
and then
fine.
my aiming is the same.
yeah.
Okay.
But that's only when you want to use your armor piercing. The way I'm imagining this
Oh,
is
so it's like on or off.
what I'm basically imagining is like they added a mechanism within the gun itself that lets you like click up and over, and it just gives it a little bit more heft. But the
Yes.
extra heft,
So basically,
your-
I
your-
have
Add 2 pierce and lose accurate.
So I
or
have
have
a
accurate.
switch that is pierce or accurate.
Correct.
That makes sense to me.
Yep. So soft targets you can still punch through. Hard targets you lose a bit of accuracy to gain a bit of punchiness.
Great.
Yep.
That works for me.
Cool. Okay. So yeah. So they'll give you that. All right. They also will send in a technician, Valentyne, just to kind of again punch out the easy things first.
Great.
So the technician comes in and sees this busted ass servitor has been ripped in half, and begins to kind of look it over. I imagine this is a bit like in mob movies when they bring in a doctor and are like, fix that. And it's just the doctor kind of comes in and is like, okay, what the fuck? This like Eldari technician is clearly very stressed to be in a room full of humans in the Black Library. It's not their favorite.
Valentyne would just order the others to the other side of the room. Just make some room. Push them away. He's going to supervise because he wants to talk, but he does not want this tech to be concerned. He likes a nice, calm environment, not realizing that he's the most unsettling person of any member of a group.
So the tech adjusts. They're wearing a translator unit because not every most Eldari wouldn't speak Gothic, and
It's a grotesque language
100%.
for
Yeah,
animals.
yeah,
I
it's
agree.
like if I have something caught in my throat, I'll speak your weird
I don't
gross language.
speak dolphin.
Yeah. So the technician takes a quick look and says, "I see that this is touched by our brilliance. What manner of device is this? It seems half Imperial and half Eldari."
You are correct. That is what it is. The thing I'm hoping to maintain in terms of repair, we were forced to remove the limbs, which does limit locomotion and other abilities. However, this servitor is known as Lizzo Lizardman, is the name of the personality inside. Lizzo has the ability to control technology that is nearby, to take over it, which I believe would be highly useful and, one might say, of critical necessity to our journey to Mars to be able to survive within the machine world. What I need is repairs to the limbs, and then ideally I would like to program Lizzo Lizardman, the servitor, to only accept orders from myself, my interrogator, or Colonel Viss.
So, if I'm to understand correctly, there is a personality within this device.
Correct.
Deeply heretical. Okay.
Correct.
Oh, well, like, feeling a little bit okay, but then it would seem we do have some common ground after all, two people.
Yes, you have my solemn oath that I will destroy this once my mission is complete.
Well, even just making the alterations in order to force it to take orders from you will assist in my particular discomfort about this device.
Wonderful.
The near-field ability to control other devices is child's play. That is an easy exercise, but if it is of value to you, we can keep it.
Yes, please. If you can enhance it, I wouldn't say no, but keeping it is fine.
You mentioned limbs. Now, this is currently in one of your rather crude attempts at a facsimile of a human body. Limbs accepted. Do you desire to keep it in one of these janky tin men you build, or do you want me to put it in something more elegant?
As long as whatever is elegant is durable, I would prefer the best version of this you can get me.
And does it require limbs, or would you prefer it to be similar to your human, is it brain robot? And points at Eugene.
A servo skull. The ability to use anti-grav or whatever other technologies you have would be ideal, as long as they aren't limited by a physical flaw underneath.
So,
could I fly it over a gap, is the question.
I understand, yes. Okay, well, I can see what I can do. Do you have an issue with the personality objecting to this override?
I could not care less. Strip it of personality and keep the abilities if it's what's required.
It shouldn't be. I was just curious. I shall pick away at this and return it to you. It's just like, again, chewing on so many words. You've met the Attikus of the Eldari technicians here. Also, this will be a technological marvel to your mind and that of your fellows. Please treat it with care. It is not a gift we give lightly to humans, and I do not wish to waste my efforts. Do not let it become gestures to like ripped off arms, like shredded nonsense, and then kind of your face and Atticus's arm just says, do not let it be damaged, as you seem rough with your toys.
This was Trin Rakai's toy.
And just like suddenly like hands just come off of it. And, well, I shall see to repairing this after a shower then. Good day, Inquisitor. And he nods to a couple of Harlequins who obviously are not taking orders from this guy, so just like wait an extra few beats as he like angrily gestures like, bring it. And then he gets frustrated and storms off down the hall, and the Harlequins just both masked look at each other and then lift the Lizardman and take it off down the hall.
Valentyne does not say anything. Normally he would make a joke about the Eldari. Well, a joke/statement about the Eldari having the same ego problems that seem to plague the Imperium, but it doesn't feel like something that should be said in a room where the Infinity Circuit's active.
Great. And then I guess this would just be in your head then, Gideon. Infinity Circuit says, you've proven to us that you have touched the warp and that the warp has touched you. Yet you seem to ask such basic questions of the warp, its abilities, and what it means for you as one who commands it. This means you have potential, but are also a site of great danger. We shall tell you of the warp, in the hopes that it consumes you slower, that you may complete your mission. So, let us speak of that which your Imperium fears most. Let us speak of the warp.
This episode of the Valentyne Heresy features the voices of players Ryan LaPlante, Tyler Hewitt, Josh Halbot, and Del Borovic, alongside Game Master Tom McGee. This episode was edited and mixed by Laura Hamstra, and the Valentyne Heresy's artwork was created by Del Borovic at delborovic.com. That's DELBOROVIC.com. Our theme song is The Hordes by Megan McDuffie, and our ad breaks use the tracks No Control and Chiefs by Jazzar, JAHZZAR. All of their music is available at freemusicarchive.org. For all things Dum-Dums and Dice, including merchandise and how to join our Patreon, you can visit dumdumdice.com or find us on social media at dumdumdice. That's DUMBDICE. Ave Imperator, and death to all the heretics.
Dum-Dums and Dice has to give a special thank you to the supreme beings of our Patreon at this time: Christopher Little, George Dolby, Gavin and Abby McDonald, Fire Unfriendly, Grandma Likes D&D, Alan, Stabby Stranger, Glitch Trick, Flynn1138, Alarain Okapi, Schrodinger's Pepper, Madre de Gatos, Lady Maiden, Nithrian, Garbo Ape, Sam Schaefer, Waffle Marine, Dagger Rain, Rob L, Dia De Los Hoodless, Squishy Werewolf, Remy Funky Head, Accent Therapeutic Services in Florence, Kentucky, Lael, Shulzari, The Long Family, Jordan Oliver, Richard Wright, Brittany Fenwick, Alex Parr, Dragonfly, Megan Werner, A Man Out of Time, Curtis at FingerTechRobotics.com, Panda24NN, Shendra D, Your Homeboy Bones, Ellis Hatch, Odigenous, Beef Not Cheese, Kai Koa, Squire Solaire, Sandy Sassy Pants, Adam, Amira Lockhart, James Molina, Nick Hemsing, Alex LaFountain, Mickey Blake, Seth Cambron, and Jill and Noel LaPlante. If you want your name to be added to this list, you can join our Patreon too at patreon.com/dumdumdice. Thanks to them, and a little bit of thanks to you.